विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये सरस्वति नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणी विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. So little we are meeting after a gap of 2 weeks, but if you 2 weeks or I think more than that. So if you remember, the last topic that we had just started was the Dasha Mahavidyas, 10 forms of goddess Mahakali. So basically this talks Kalaha. So Kali meaning the goddess of time, or Kala Bhairava, another form of Lord Shiva who also rules over time. So another name for time or Samayaha is also Kalaha. Even for death also one name is Kalaha. We say his Kala has come. Means his time has come. Meaning the person's death can happen anytime soon. So the same thing is mentioned here. So we have just started quick go through. So sometimes a moment, even 1 minute seems to be like it's never ending, and sometimes a very long period of time also passes about in a moment. So therefore, time is illusion. This is the same time that we have. 24 hours is a time period that all of us have. How we make use of it is important. This line, Kshanak Swapne Bhavet Kalpaha, Kalpascha Bhavati Kshanaha. This line is mentioned in the Yoga Vasishta. Yoga Vasishta. Further, you have the forms of Kala Bhairava and goddess Mahakali that have been told. We had looked upon that. So basically the division of time has been mentioned, Kalpa, Triti from there. So from below you should start. Stop. Triti is 29 milliseconds. Further you have Prana, Vinadi, Nadi, Muhurta. One Muhurta, when we say it is a 48 minutes. Now when you have the Muhurtam, you say you have the Lagna Muhurtam and so on, the marriage Muhurta. Though in the Lagna Patrika we mentioned, say, sometimes we mention a 1 hour time, right? 9 to 10 or 8:30 to 9:30. Or sometimes some people in some traditions also they will mention the exact time, 12:34, 1 5, such things will be mentioned, especially maybe in North India, Central India, you have that particular time Muhurta is mentioned. Whereas in Central, you can say below South India, they will mention roughly about 1 hour time. Whereas actually when we say Muhurta, that has got a time period of about 48 minutes. Then Yama, Ahoratra, Paksha, Masa, Ritu, Ayana, Varsha, Yuga, Mahayuga, Manvantara, and Kalpa. So like this, there are different time periods that have been mentioned. So basically, Kala has got its reference through all these different time periods that have been. Further, the Gita also Krishna says, Kalaha Kalayatam, meaning I am the one who rules over time. Now the two god of time, one is Lord Krishna, and you have Kala Bhairava and goddess Mahakali. Both of them they rule over time over there. Dasha Mahavidyas, this topic that we have is basically revolving around Devi Mahakali. That is there. Dasha Mahavidya. Now, as the name goes, Vidya is knowledge. Vidya, this word has come from the dhatu, from the shabdam Vida, meaning to know something. That's how the word comes in. And Dasha Mahavidya is the 10 different forms of knowledge. So, knowledge also, though we give a lot of reference with regards to goddess Saraswati. Saraswati is a goddess of learning or goddess of knowledge. Kali also, knowledge is further divided into 10 different forms. Each of these forms represent one form of goddess Mahakali. So this is the concept of Dasha Mahavidyas which has been mentioned in our scriptures. So what is that? Let's have a look. So these are the 10 forms of Mahakali. We will just see the pictures. We will look at each of these in detail. First is goddess Mahakali herself. Now, basically, now if you see the goddess Mahakali has a very fierce form. You can see the picture on your right. So basically, this is that form of Brahman. Brahman is nothing but the ultimate reality that we have, and the one who rules over time and death. Then you have one concept called Kundalini Yoga. Kundalini Yoga is based on the different chakras that are there in our body. and you have the down. If you see that image that is there, that's called a yantra. So basically, Dasha Mahavidyas, this topic is based on Shaktism entirely. So Shaktism talks about lot of tantras, yantras, and so on. So they will use even their hasta mudras. Hasta mudras is they will use they will make different actions or so from their bodies, and that's how their way of worship is done. Now, usually when we do some puja or worship, maybe we chant shlokas or maybe we offer flowers, some kind of say prasad or something. Beyond that, we don't do anything, right? But there are certain people you would have seen, especially priests who worship the goddess, especially they will do a lot of their hasta mudras and so on. So that is a part of Shaktism, or in Shakti worship, all these practices are included. So she is the one who rules over Kundalini Yoga, and ultimately that leads to moksha. So this is a yantram that is there, which on which usually this is a yantram representing goddess Mahakali, and that's how the worship is done. In fact, if you go to some Devi temples, especially in South India, also you will have all these tantras that are done. Some people also have these tantras in their houses where regular everyday puja is done. And in these tantras, they will fill a lot of turmeric, kumkuma, and so on, and that's how the puja is done. Or people who are aware of the Bhagavati Seva Puja that's done again, especially down in South India, also in other parts, especially not very popular, but still it is done. There you have all these yantras that are drawn and worship is done. So basically, those yantras they represent the goddess. The first form is goddess Mahakali, very fierce to look at, but at the same time, she is the ultimate form. So basically, even if you go to West Bengal side, the eastern side, you have Kali worship that is done, especially today. God's grace today is Ashtami, so they have a lot of Devi Puja, Durga Puja that is being done, and they worship these forms of the gods. Further, you have the next form that is there. The second form is called Tara. Now, Tara is another form. Now, all these are actually forms of goddess Mahakali only. They are like the incarnation. So, just as we have the 10 chief popular incarnations of Mahavishnu, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, like that, these are the 10 incarnations of goddess Mahakali. So, first is Mahakali herself, second is Tara. She is like a mother and guru, so one who always guides us on the right path and to be able to survive in all situations that come in. And she is a form of goddess Saraswati. So basically, guide like a guiding force who guides us at every step. That is her form. So basically, if you see all these, they all represent some of the other kind of vidya, some other kind of knowledge. Basically, life survival lessons. Or Mahakali, if you see, that is ultimate knowledge. That is their knowledge of the reality, knowledge of Brahman, and so on. Second Devi, Tara Devi, mainly will represent, you can say, the situations that come in our everyday life and how to face over them. So the teaching of that is the representative, the one who represents that is Tara. This is a second form. Next is you have now this is a very fierce form of the goddess. You don't have the head also. So basically here Chinnamasta is the name of the goddess who basically you can say is a form of a guru. So basically a guru, what is the main role of a guru is he tries to awaken the mind of the shishyas by telling them or by showing them the right path, by telling them what is right, what is wrong. And basically here why the head is also severed, why this form of the goddess is it is that the ego or ahankara of one person is removed, and thus the person is always guided on the path of spirituality or the right path, shown what has to be done exactly. So basically this form of Chinnamasta represents this, that wherein the ego is gone away and the mind is awakened. Consciously the mind is awakened. Now basically now these 10 group of vidyas that are there, they are represented by you can say uh, different goddesses, and they are mainly called as tantric goddesses, or you can say tantric goddesses. One thing all of you must know, sometimes what happens is tantrism or tantris that we call tantra shastram, sometimes we might consider that to be like some magic that is being done, or maybe they do a lot of, you can say, most people are also afraid of something, the way they chant mantras and so on. Or even if you know Rakshasas, whenever they worship the goddess, best example Indrajit from the Ramayana reference, when he worships goddess Nikumba, Kumba Devi, Kumbala, right? That mountain, when he worships the goddess, the way, the practices that he uses, it becomes very fierce. Now, Rakshasas, By their nature, they will chant the mantras also a very harsh manner. That is one part. But then little, that is the way of their worship. So we cannot just term that to be, oh, maybe everything is just false, maybe fraud like cases. They're just, it is a bit, you can say, violent. Such things are done, but that is in their own way. That is one way of practice. That is it. So one is the general path which all of us use, our normal worship that you do. Maybe you visit temples, you chant some prayers, or you do some good things. That is one part. But then this is also one part of worship that is done in few places. Maybe it is not commonly practiced, but that doesn't mean that such a concept does not exist. So therefore, the form will be fierce, but still the meaning that is there behind is deep. So basically, the head, when it is cut off of the goddess of Chinnamasta, it means it is actually discarding or letting go the ego that is there in all of us and finally awakening. So this is the third form, Chinnamasta. Next you have Shodashi. Shodashi represents the form of the goddess which is on the topmost. Topmost is, it represents the human mind, and the topmost part of the human mind is called Turiya. Turiya meaning highest level of consciousness, wherein you have the Sushumna Nadi that is located. Sushumna Nadi, you can say the topmost part of the head. So if you touch your top, it is our head or brain and such things, they're quite delicate organs, right? So we have to take care. Even head injuries or so that take place, most of the cases what happens is the person dies. There is no treatment at all. Whereas somewhere you get hurt in your legs, hands or so, maybe it will be temporary. The recovery will also become fast. But in the case when something hits our head also, it becomes very difficult because that part of the body is very delicate. And mind is something wherein you have a lot of things that are there inside also our mind should be quite strong. You have thoughts running in, we have feelings, this, that, everything. And at the same time, highest level of consciousness, whenever a person dies, the soul or the breath, it leaves the body through the topmost part of the head. That's how it breaks open and it goes up. That's what is a belief that are there. So basically that is the highest level of consciousness. Even yogis, when they practice Ashtanga yoga or methods like this, finally when they attain moksha, it seems that the highest level of consciousness is on the topmost part of the head. That is the reason why people, they sages also, they grow long hair, right? They will have a jata on their top. Why do they do that on top of the head, or even Lord Shiva for that matter? Because that place is the powerhouse of energy. So in order to store that, they will tie their jata so that all the energy is stored top. Even small children, if you see, if you touch the top part of the head, that will always be hot. Even in our case also it might be there, but in elders also we have a lot of hair, right? That's growing. Whereas in small children, if you see, when they don't have hair or hair is just slowly growing in, if you touch, or in fact for small children, mothers also they will apply oil on the top part of the head because that part has to grow well, and further it is to lead to good consciousness, mind should be good, and so on. So that is a very very important part of the body. That is the highest level of consciousness. Other three states are awake and asleep. So either we are awake or at night time we go off to sleep. And there is a third state called dream state. So in the case of dream, what happens is we are awake in the dream, but in reality we are actually sleeping. So that is dream state. And the last state is highest consciousness. Now the three states we have already experienced: to be awake, to be sleepy, and to be in a dream. Dream also, some dreams we remember, some dreams we forget. So that also depends. But these three that are there, always we, these two we have all experienced. Dream state we do experience at times, but the last state that is there of consciousness, at least till date, has not been experienced by all of us present here. One fine day it might happen. It surely happens with yogis, sages, and so on, wherein they experience consciousness that is nothing but samadhi state. When we say someone attains samadhi, what exactly happens? It's actually death in easy terms, but then it doesn't. Now for people like us, when death will come we don't know. Maybe a person is sitting, suddenly he falls, we say that, so sudden death took place, he was just sitting, he was talking, but we become unaware that the process of death has already started. From inside, all the organs have slowly started withdrawing. It's just that the person is not aware of that because we don't have that capacity. We have not reached that state. Whereas yogis, sages also who have reached this consciousness level of turiya, they become aware. They can establish a control on their body. Slowly, organs and so on start withdrawing. Now, this can get a bit philosophical and boring at times, but then This topic is like that, so we have to talk about this. So when we say the highest level of consciousness or samadhi, that when we talk about, that is nothing but wherein there is samadhi is actually death only, but then person when maybe he is sitting, he is meditating, and death comes in. So we don't come to know while meditating from within only the person establishes control, and that's how death goes. The energy passes out through the highest level to the topmost part of the head. But in case of all of us human beings, we are ignorant. um, you can say untimely deaths or accidental death is different. But when we say person was sitting, he dies, the only reason that we give is heart attack, cardiac arrest. What exactly is that? Cardiac arrest, heart stops breathing, right? Heart stops pumping, lungs stop working, breath stops. That is nothing but life has gone away. The process from inside already starts. It's just that we are not aware. Just as for birth it takes 9 months, death cannot take place in 1 second also. Process starts, of course it doesn't take 9 months, but from within slowly. That's the reason you see for some people who are old or so, sometimes they can make out that maybe anytime I will die. So maybe for the last 1 2 months or so, maybe they will not show any interest, maybe they will not remember things, or maybe they'll be very very dull. You can make out, right? So slowly, and maybe they'll just keep talking about death also. When will I die? When will things happen? So little in old age, sometimes things come in, or when someone is suffering from diseases or so, sometimes we feel, right? So slowly, sometimes that slowly the person becomes aware. Many times it seems that when death comes in, now here no one has experienced death, right? Whereas in the case of birth, mothers have experienced both. That is a process of birth. And none of us remember how birth takes place. What happens exactly in the womb? What was the thinking then? Nobody remembers, right? In fact, even in our lives also, initial 1 2 years of your life you don't remember. Maybe your parents tell you something, grandparents tell you were like this, you were like that. Okay, fine. Now also many things we don't remember. Few things of my childhood, oh I did this, oh I did that, little we know. Beyond that we don't remember everything. Inside the womb what happened, nothing remembers, no one remembers. Whereas, so this is the thing that happens. At least mothers, when they give birth, when they experience a process of, they also don't know what exactly happens inside, but at least little at that time they can imagine, oh, I was also inside my womb like this, my child was also like this. Maybe to some extent they can experience. Beyond that, nobody knows about birth. But in the case of death, though everyone of us, all the previous generations have experienced, maybe all of us also will experience one fine day, but there is no one who comes and tells us what exactly happens because we don't remember, right? Now, in the next birth, all of us are there in this birth. How you died in the previous birth, you never know. Nobody remembers that. So there is no one to tell us about the process of death. But in our scriptures and books also it has been written that the process of death, just as birth takes time, death also takes time. It's not a one fine day all the organs will stop working and birth goes away. Death, that is life, goes away. It doesn't happen that way. Internally the process already starts. It's just that we don't become aware of that. So Shodashi, this form of the goddess, is the highest level of consciousness. Next. This is the yantra that is usually drawn for worshipping this god. Especially now you have the Navaratri festival. Some people also worship the goddess in all such different forms. Next is Bhuvaneshwari. Now, Bhuvaneshwari is said to be the first goddess to have manifested. Because Bhuvanaha, Bhuhu meaning earth. So, Bhuvanasya Ishwarihi Bhuvaneshwarihi, the goddess, or you can say the goddess who rules over earth or Bhumi, that is Bhuvaneshwari. So, mother goddess basically. She is composed of the five elements of nature and everything on earth. She is like the representative of the earth, and she is the chief of all the material things that we need. That's the reason for attaining and achieving all kinds of material desires, many times goddess Bhuvaneshwari is worshipped. So Bhuvaneshwari is the one who we can say all material riches also, or maybe you can say education, such things like maybe going to school, going to college, and so on, learning that takes place in material life. For that reason, goddess Bhuvaneshwari is a representative of that knowledge, and she is worshipped. Next, Tripura Bhairavi. She now Kala Bhairavi, Kala Bhairava, Scottish Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is known for dissolution, right? Layaha, destruction of the universe. Similarly, Tripura Bhairavi is the goddess of dissolution and liberation. That is end of the world during before Pralaya Kala and ultimately Moksha. She is, you can say, a very fierce form of the goddess of Adi Shakti, and she represents herself in the form of Agni. Now, why Agni? When life gets over, ultimately, last stage, what happens is Agni. The person is burnt, right? So, person is burnt, become from the Pancha Mahabhutas, you are again merged with the soil only. When the person is burnt, ashes remain, bones remain. So, ultimately, we are merged with the ash only. So, therefore, with the mud, soil only. So, Tripura Bhairavi is a form who is there in the form, very fierce form of goddess Parashakti, but she is in the form of Agni or fire. Next is Dhumavati. Basically, Dhumavati, if you see, even if you look at the form of the goddess, it's like a very, you can say, old lady kind of a soul, right? So basically, this Dhumavati is a goddess who is a goddess of detachment, old age, hunger, sorrow, you can say different diseases associated with old age, suffering, and so on. So basically, one, and you see the outward appearance. So basically, Dhumavati is a goddess who represents one who teaches to go beyond deceptive outward appearances and allows us to focus on the inner self. So basically, we hear this line, right? Be young. When we say be young, even as be young from heart, such things when we say, actually how we tell our inner self, that is very, very important. But there might be a very young person by age, but then maybe always he is just complaining about, I'm always tired, my head is paining, hand is paining, leg is paining. If you keep telling the same thing, even though your age is young, you will behave like an old man. Whereas you see some senior people also, they're very active. They will be very aged, maybe 65, 70, 80, whatever it is, they'll be very active. So like a young person, they will move about here and there in their own lives, they'll be very happy and so on. So this is a difference. But for this, of course, one aspect is very important, that is physical health. Only if health is there, health is wealth, we say. So be it young, old, or anything. And in today's times, we cannot say that only old people fall ill. In fact, young people fall more ill, right? So therefore, illness or something to come doesn't take a lot of time. So basically, this Dhumavati is a goddess who tells that from outside a person can look good or however you look, from inside the focus should always be on the inner self to develop one's inner self. From within, if we feel young, automatically our body also will feel energized. But if you always sit and complain, oh, this is happening, that is happening, problems are there everywhere. How you look at yourself, that is something which is very, very important. This is one meaning. Second way in which we can interpret is sometimes you see we focus a lot on our outward appearances. No doubt, taking care of the physical body is very much important, but what we do is maybe only from outside I should look very young, I should look very nice. From inside, no, I don't know anything. You ask a person any one question also, they will not know anything, right? So maybe from outside a person, best example you see this different. If you go to certain pilgrimage places, you can see a few sadhus, right? Usually we are afraid of them. Even to talk to them, go near them, we are afraid because their physical form is not that good. Whereas you go and you meet them, they will have the highest form of knowledge. Or even you have someone called Siddhas, right? Especially if you go to Tamil Nadu or so, Tiruvannamalai Kshetram, you have a lot of Siddhas. If anyone has gone, you would have known. They know a lot things. They're actually, you can say, like gurus also. But physically, when you look at them, they will not look very appearing. Like sometimes you look at someone and we feel, oh, this person might know everything. He looks very good. But actually, when you go near, you speak to the person, you'll realize that just from outside he looks good, inside he knows nothing. So Dhumavati is a goddess who represents that. Outward, don't judge a book by its cover. Best example for this. Anyone can look, however, from outside, anyone might look good or bad. The inner self is very, very important. How one should be there or how one is from inside, that is very, very important. And at the same time, Dhumavati is a goddess who represents detachment, hunger, sorrow, suffering. These are something which are going to be there in everyone's life. Now, maybe by God's grace, we don't have to suffer from hunger and so on. But then, sorrow, suffering, detachment, old age, you're rich, you're poor, whatever it is, such things are surely going to come, right? Maybe the intensity will be less or more. Some might suffer from, you can say, deadly diseases. Some might have maybe everyday problems like a cold, headache, or diabetes, something like that. But whatever it is, suffering is there, just the intensity differs. Okay, next form is Dhumavati. Sorry. Next is Bhagalamki. Bhagalamki. She is the form of right speech, and the Guru, the form of the goddess who writes, who guides us to always speak the right words. And when evil thoughts or bad thoughts come to our mind, one who helps us in removing that, discarding that, one who helps us to establish a control over all situations that come, to face all obstacles that come in life, and one, the Guru, who gives the power to dominate the enemies. Now, when we say enemies, because so if you see there, you can see the goddess holding the tongue of a person. That is holding the tongue and guiding the person in the right path to speak always the truth. Truth, or you can say right speech. Now, the way we speak is very, very important. For this, now there is a subhashita that is being told, wherein you have just a saying, you have a conversation between two people, and wherein they just speak that uh, why was the need for Lord Brahma to even create different kinds of deadly weapons, like you can say the different bombs, swords, this and that. There was no need at all. So someone asks, why you're speaking like this? He says the man's tongue has been created, and the man's tongue is more deadly than all the other weapons that are there. What is the meaning of this? Sometimes when we speak evil also, we hurt others, right? Or when someone speaks bad about us, it hurts us. So that hurting that is there, and maybe 10 years back, 20 years back, someone spoke bad about me. It might be a very small thing, but till date we remember that, right? And even today when we look at that person, maybe we would have forgotten about it, the enmity that we had, but still we remember, no, this, that day, this person had told. Today, of course, I don't mind much, but still that day he told me like this. When I was in school, he told me like this. 10 years before, he told. This we always remember, because the same thing is applicable to us also. So maybe sometimes it happens, maybe immediately someone tells us something, we react immediately, we speak harshly, and the next minute we realize, oh, I should have not spoken like this. It hurts the person, right? So there is no need for creating deadly weapons at all. Man's tongue itself is very dangerous, therefore we have to speak very, very thoughtfully. Sometimes what happens is, people are also very smart, or human nature is very, you can say, becomes very difficult to study human nature. Sometimes what happens is, we give some promise, I will do this surely, for tomorrow I'll do this. We tell this, next minute we forget, but to whomever we told, that person remembers that, right? And then tomorrow the person will ask, no, you told yesterday you will be doing, you did not do. Say, okay, later, I just told, I don't have time. Something we tell and go away. So this is something, we make some promise, we don't fulfill it, or this for time being, we just say, okay, I'll take care of that later, and then we just ignore and go about. Just for that minute, to convince the person, we speak somewhat and go. So right speech. So what, through this, what happens is, the next time the opposite person will never trust you. And he always says like that, he never does anything. Right? So speech is something, or keeping promises. For this, Rama is the best example. Rama, just today, few of us were looking at Valmiki Ramayana morning. In that Ravana, it was a Shurpanaka incident that was there. So in that Rama, what he tells is, Ravana and Maricha have a conversation after Shurpanaka's answer, her cutting off ears, nose, everything. When later Ravana approaches Maricha, tells him that you help me, I want to fight with Rama, I want to abduct Sita, and so on. At that time, Ravana tells that, so Maricha tries to convince Rama, tells him, persuades him, don't fight with Ravana, it is very, don't fight with Rama, sorry, it's very dangerous, you will also be killed, entire Lanka will be destroyed, this, that, everything. Ravana does not listen, and then he tells that, what you're listening to all this, you're making me also afraid of a common man. Manushyaha, he says. Manushyatvam, meaning humanity. Manushyatvam is humanity. What you're talking about, people like this who believe in humanity, human beings, a normal common man. If you know the story of Ravana, Ravana had asked for a boon from Brahma, wherein he says that no creature should kill me. Animals, birds, gods, everyone he includes, except a man. Brahma even gives him a reminder, tells him, why you forgot? Man, he says, what will a man do to me? Nothing I don't want from a man. All other creatures are included. That is more than enough. So there Ravana, when he talks to Maricha, he says, such a person, a common man, he cannot do anything to me. And he says, this person, this Rama, he is impacted by the words of a normal woman who told him to go to the forest. Who was that woman? Kaikeyi. So just by the words of Kaikeyi, he has left back his own kingdom. He was being blessed by making the king. That also, he gave up his kingship, he gave up his family, he gave up his parents, everything for the words of a woman. What is the use of those words? But from the point of view of Rama, it was that the two boons which my father had promised my mother, that had to be fulfilled. My father cannot do it. Father has to do it indirectly through me. So therefore, the promise should always be kept. Raghukula Vakyam, that is there, Pran Jaya Vachan Na Jaya. It's very famous, right? So that is lot of importance is given to one's speech. Uh, this goddess, she represents the god, the speech that is there and the promise that we make sometimes. But what happens is nowadays, let's not say nowadays, but we don't give value much to speech, right? That's a reason why, to prove something or for evidence purposes, what do we do? So give me in writing, we say, right? Or law also, when there's a case or something that is going on, we always ask for proofs and evidences. We don't believe in oral proofs. No, I told them something, I told them that day, I told you. So no, you never told me. No, no, I told you, you remember, but there's no proof. So what we need, some recordings, maybe we need some return proofs. So therefore speech is something which should always be right, but it is never given much importance, because very casually people can say, no, I did not say this at all, right? But there is no proof whether he said it also, what is true, what is false. So the guru, the goddess who represents good speech, right speech, who will ensure that no evil thoughts or talks come to our mind. Only if our mind is fresh, we speak in the same way. If our mind is filled with evil thoughts also, we'll also speak accordingly. So one who gives the power to dominate enemies, he can master all situations, cross over all problems and obstacles, and have good speech. That is this form of the goddess. Next. Next is Matangi. Matangi is also a form of Saraswati, but a tantric form of Saraswati. And she is, so basically, she is also worshipped in Shaktism, and she is a guru of Kundalini Yoga, and she is a mother of inauspiciousness. Why we have to consider this inauspiciousness? Now, does inauspiciousness also have a mother? Little here, people have a confusion. So basically, here what they try to mean is, even now our culture, you can say, it has or it terms everything with divinity. That's the reason trees are worshipped, rivers are worshipped, sky is worshipped, even Nidra is worshipped, goddess is worshipped, or even for different kinds of the different actions that we do, drinking, sleeping, and so on. Everything is associated with some god, Nidra Devi, or eating will be goddess Annapurna. For everything, some divinity is there. Similarly, for Lakshmi, Alakshmi, we say, right? Lakshmi is goddess Mahalakshmi, goddess of prosperity. Alakshmir Nashayatu. When we say this line, that means Alakshmi, that is all kinds of inauspiciousness should go away. There is someone who also rules on that. Why should be there a ruler? Or you can say, why should be a mother be there for inauspiciousness? That is because to know what is auspiciousness, we should know what is inauspicious, right? Now, someone says, okay, you should offer only fresh flowers to the goddess, or fresh flowers to the Lord. Only if you know what are fresh flowers, it is fine. Only if you know what are soiled flowers or which are the flowers which are not good. So at least once in a lifetime you would have seen, right? Maybe our own parents or someone would have shown us, see, these flowers are a little dark, they're fallen on the ground, there is some mud or something over it. Or maybe flowers that are fallen down also, such flowers should not be offered. So someone first tells us what not to do, what is wrong, what is inauspicious. Only then we get to know what is auspicious. Only then we can differentiate someone between truth and lies also. Only if you know what is lies, you can speak the truth, right? Otherwise, if you don't know what is truth, what is lies, everyone will just speak, keep on speaking. Whatever comes to their mind, people will speak, right? So the thing is, why here is just to signify that before we do something, we should know both the good things, advantages, and the disadvantages, do's and don'ts. If we are buying a product, I'm using something, I should also know how to not use it. Because if you use it in any way, it will cause problem. So therefore, mother of inauspiciousness is Matangi, form of spiritual knowledge, tantric form of goddess Saraswati, also the ruler of Kundalini Yoga. Next is Kamaltatmika, goddess of, you can say a goddess of tantric form of goddess Mahalakshmi. You have elephants around, you have lotuses in her hand, she's sitting on that. So like this is a form of goddess Mahalakshmi of beauty, prosperity, happiness, knowledge, and so on. So the same things which in general goddess Mahalakshmi represents same this form also of the goddess represents. This is the form of Dashamaha Vidya. Now little more I will tell you. So basically, all these forms are nothing but the forms of the Divine Mother only, just as we have the different incarnations of the Lord. Similarly, these 10 forms also represent some form of the goddess. Now, all these forms that are there, be it Kali also. Now, Kali is dark black in color. She will have her teeth will be shining white. So, if you see on black, if you apply some white, how it will be shining, very fierce to look at. She will wear tiger skin as her garments. She'll have the red tongue that is hanging. So, form is very fierce. She will have, you can say, blood dripping from a demon's head. If you have seen this picture, that was the first picture of Kali. You'll have blood dripping from the demon's head. That is, she has killed the demon. So like this, there are different things that are there. Tara, she's like a guide. She's a protector. She also manifests as a mother of Shiva. It seems after Samudra Manthana. Now why so? Here again, there is a very beautiful concept. Why Tara? You can see little bluish color she is. That is because after the Samudra Manthana episode, Lord Shiva he consumes hada hada poison, right? So it seems that he becomes very tired because of the consumption of poison. So obviously now if you consume poison, so at that time goddess Parvati comes and consoles him. Now Mahakali, Parvati, they are all Mahakali is a form of goddess Parvati only. So when she comes and consoles, it seems that the poison's impact is seen on Tara also. Like a mother, she comes and consoles Lord Shiva. She takes him under his, she keeps him near and so on. That's how she gets a blue color, it seems. And it's see for this there is another you can say story. Every Dwadashi, Ekadashi, Dwadashi are auspicious for the worship of Lord Vishnu. In fact, it was first done by Lord Shiva after the Samudra Manthana episode, after the consumption of poison by Shiva. It seems that Shiva consumes poison Ekadashi day. Now, for all the poison to go out, what he does is he has to keep a vrata. So he is very tired. He just rests the entire day. That is Ekadashi. He does vrata on that. And on Dwadashi day, slowly, you can say the impact of poison starts reducing. That's when slowly he gets up. On Dwadashi day, just as we break the fast, he also breaks the fast. But slowly, now whenever we break a fast, we don't eat in bulk, right? Slowly we start consuming things. The quantity little by little we consume. Same Lord Shiva also does. That is the significance of Ekadashi and Dwadashi. So just out of context, this is not related to this. Then that's how Tara Devi she gets this form of a blue color form that she has. Further, you have now, if you very clearly, if you look at this Tara Devi, she actually represents Lord Shiva. She was also got three eyes. If you see very closely, she has a skull mala like Lord Shiva has, and so on. So basically, she represents Lord Shiva. Next, you have the third god. I'm just telling you about the physical forms of Lord of the gods that are there. Next is you have Chinnamasta. Now, Chinnamasta, this goddess, you can say she chops off her own head, and that is in order to it is as if it represents taking up ego, and she has a red complexion, a very frightful appearance because you have lot of you can say enemies whom she kills. Now, enemies that are there. Uh, let's not call it as physical enemies. It is basically the other enemies like anger and so on, which are there in one's own body. Now, if you see her eyes or her clothes also, they are not fully clothed. So that's the reason here, if you see, they are partially clothed. And the one hand, her form that is there, she has got two hands. One hand will bestow boons also, and the other she has got a small basket. If you see basket, or you can say there here she holds her own head, but in one hand there is a belief that she holds a basket. Basically, in that everything she collects, it seems, all the ego, ahankara, all the ripus that are there, ripus enemies, all the enemies that are there, she collects all those qualities. Next is you have the form. So the forms that are there is little uh, the physical appearance, though it seems to be not very pleasant to look at. When we look at these forms, maybe we feel what is this? Now maybe Shodashi also is fine. But little forms like Chinnamasta not very pleasant to look at, but there is a lot of significance behind this. Next is you have Shodashi. Now Shodashi, this form is also called as Tripura Sundari. She is another name for that, and she is actually the tantric form of Parvati. So tantric form of Saraswati, Matangi, tantric form of Lakshmi, Kamalatmika, and tantric form of tantric form of Parvati is Shodashi. Shodashi is none but goddess Lalitambika herself. Most of us chant the Lalita Sahasranama. That is actually Shodashi. Even Lalita Sahasranama, for that matter, is actually representing Shaktism. So Even the first verses that are there, Sindhuraruna Vigraham Trinayanam, the Dhyana shlokas that are there, they also talk about the, you can say, study of chakras and Shaktism in general, but we don't look at that with that perspective. We just chant the shloka as it is. So Shodashi, in fact, is a form of Tantric Parvati, a Tantric form of goddess Parvati. Next is you have goddess Bhuvaneshwari, who rules over the earth. The goddess, she is of fair golden complexion. She has got three eyes, just like Lord Shiva, and always she wears red and yellow garments. And on all her limbs and four hands, everything, ornaments are there. And she will always sit on a throne. Goddess Bhuvaneshwari, if you see, she always sits on a throne. And on one hand, she will have a noose. If you see on her left hand below, she has a noose. Noose is to, she rules over all the material things that are there. Like, but at the right time, if someone is getting too much into material life also, with the noose, she will hold the person, she'll tie the person's neck and so on, and bring the person back into world. Next is you have the female form of Bhairavi, you can say a very dangerous form. Bhairavi has always wears red and blue garments. Tripura Bhairavi, red blue garment. She manifests Lord Agni Bhagwan. She has got a lot of skulls, snakes, and so on. So very, you can say a very fierce form that is there. And she doesn't wear a lot of jewelry also, like Bhuvaneshwari or maybe Tripura Sundari. She will not have jewelry as such. She will have only all these skulls and so on. Next is Chinnamasta. 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 Sorry, we have already seen Chinnamasta. Next is Dhumavati. Dhumavati is again the, if you see, Dhuma itself means smoke. So little like a smoky color, smoky dark complexion. Her mouth is dry, skin is wrinkled. So basically, she represents a form of an old lady. Further, Bagalamukhi, this goddess, she is the goddess of speech and she has got a golden complexion. If you look at the goddess, so very pleasant golden uh, clothes also she wears, and she guides people on the right path to. She wears yellow ornaments only. She guides people to always speak the truth, and she at times she is sits on a crane also, bird crane. That is her Vahana. Mostly she sits on a throne. Sometimes it is she sits on the back of crane. And here, if you see, one hand holds a mace and other weapons. Here, this Asura, this person who's there, is called Madanasura. Madanasura is the name of the Asura, on whose tongue she establishes a control on his tongue. And because he was causing a lot of evil things, he used to speak evil about people, so she holds his tongue always so that he cannot speak evil. Next is Matangi, is a tantric form of Saraswati. She has a calm look and she will have all other ornaments and everything that is there on her body. She also wears little fierce to look at, but not that fierce because she represents Tantrism. Little it will be a bit fierce look, unlike normal Saraswati. Apart from that, the form is very calm. Next is Kamalatmika. Kamalatmika is the last goddess, and she, like normal Mahalakshmi, she will be very, you can say, very good to look at, a very good form, very pleasant form rather to look at, and with lot of elephants around her, sitting on lotuses, wearing good ornaments and limbs, having good limbs, and she ensures that she protects all the devotees and protects them, fulfills their wishes, and so on. So this is the Dashamaha Vidyas that are there. And lastly, the mother of Brahma, the mother of everyone, A Brahma Kita Janani. Just as in the Lalita Sasnama, we have this vakyam, A Brahma Kita Janani Varnashrama Vidayini. From that, this line comes. Mother of everyone is none but Goddess Parashakti. She is only one and only one. But then there are different forms like the Dashamahavidyas, which represent the 10 forms of the goddess. Okay, so with this, this topic comes to an end. Could everyone understand and make out? Yes? Yes? Okay. Yes, you have to go through it. Yes. Next topic we start. Now, next topic that we have is Garbhopanishad. Garbhopanishad, together you can say, or Garbha Upanishad. So basically, this is a treatise. It is a part of, you can say, an Upaveda, or one scripture that is apart from Atharva Veda. It is emerged. Not a very common known text, but then quite interesting. Wherein how creation starts in, or what exactly happens inside the mother's womb, how the child grows slowly, what is the development that takes place biologically, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, all that is told. Now, if you see, Garbha Upanishad is one of those texts. It is a part of Atharva Veda, I told you. So, you can say thousands of years back, during the Veda, thousands, 5,000 years back almost. Whereas, as per medical science, you have, maybe you can consider about roughly 250 to 300 years back, there was some discovery that is done that a man's sperm and a woman's ovum together, that's how it leads to the child, birth of a child. Whereas this thing has been mentioned in the Vedas, in the Garbha Upanishad, as a part of Atharva Veda. Thousands of years back, it's only that we don't know about it at all. So in detail, let's see what this text tries to tell us. Okay. Now, what exactly is Garbha? This the Lord highlights in the Gita. Mama yo nirmahad brahma tasmin garbham dadamyaham sambhava sarva bhutanam tato bhavati bharata. He says all this material world is my womb, and which, how it happens is, I impregnate with the seeds of living entities. And that is inside my womb, the entire world is there. And that everyday living beings, new beings are being born, new beings die about. So this, though it comes in chapter 14 of the Gita, you can also consider it as a Vishwarupa Darshana. Vishwarupa form, if you see, wherein you have different, one from one side you see how birth takes place, and from other side you see how death takes place. That is how living beings are being born and they come back. So I'll just show you a picture if you want. You can just see how life. I don't know whether in the picture it will be very clear. Hmm. I don't think there is such a picture. Okay, anyways, Vishwarupa form that is there from one side, wherein the Lord has many heads or so. That is different incarnations. There you can actually see this form, wherein from one side you see all the living beings that are coming, from the other side slowly they will all be going away. So, wherein life, birth, and death, it's like a round circle that takes place. So, next, so this is Garbha. Now, what exactly happens inside the Garbha? Let's have a look. Now, Garbha Upanishad was first told by Pippala the Rishi. Pippala is a rishi who was the propagator of Atharva Veda. Now, Atharva Veda, we have already studied about Veda Shastram. So, you'll know that Atharva Veda is a Veda which was added to the list of Vedas quite in the later period. That is it. So, first you have only Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, and Sama Veda, because the topics of Atharva Veda that are there, little they differ from the subject matter of the first three Vedas. This is what is said. So basically, the Rig Vedas, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, they have different mantras that are used during different rituals, during different karmas, in praise of natural elements and so on, or maybe sacrifices. Whereas in the Atharva Veda, you have topics like this, like medical science, or maybe Garbha Upanishad, a bit of scientific topics, little bit about black magic, or a bit of Tantrism. So such things are there, which little differs. The subject is little, you can say, slightly different from the first three Vedas. That is the reason initially it was not included in the list of Vedas. Later, of course, it became a part of it. So Pippala the Rishi was a propagator, main person who learned Atharva Veda, and he has written this text of Garbha Upanishad. Now, what he says about this text is यद्गर्भोपनिषद वेद्य निषद वेद्यं गर्भस्य स्वात्मबोधकं शरीरापन्नवात् सिद्धं स्वमात्रं कलये हरिम. Meaning, one who wants to know about Garbha Upanishad, Swatma Bodhakam, should learn it for one's own understanding. Now, why he tells us is what exactly happens in the womb, or everyone is giving birth. In fact, in general life also, everyday life also, you see, Garbha is something, or you can say even the uh, process of reproduction is something which is done by all living beings, right? Be it an animal, be it a bird, be it a human being, insects, everyone, right? The ways might be different, but still this is a process which is general. Even like eating, sleeping, standing, sitting, reproduction, all these are things which are done commonly. So therefore we don't pay heed to this. But at least once, now about other animals also it is there. But Garbha Upanishad, when we talk about human beings, very closely or very deeply, if you think how it is like little it becomes 9 months one child can there's only a small piece of flesh, or you can say whatever it is, life that goes inside. And how in 9 months inside an entire child develops and comes out, there might be a lot of mothers and parents here, you can maybe you know for your own experience. But how it is happen how it happens, it is little surprising, right? Because something which happens inside the womb, there is no control at all, how much ever. And that's the reason why there is no control. I'm saying is it's not that every time a child is born, right? Every time someone gets into a physical relationship, it's not that every time a child is born. Or in fact there are so many people even after many years or so, they have infertility issues, this and that. So therefore when we say reproduction, it's not something which is very easy, or something I just think about increasing my family. It is not like that. It has to be God's grace. Let us consider on that part. Or even if you don't call it as God's grace also, it's something that which has got a lot of science behind it, even if you can put it in such words. And secondly, when the child develops, month of now, what exactly happens in all the 9 months, how the child develops, that all we'll see in detail. But one more thing which we have to notice here is now 9 months a child is there, till the day the child is born, there is no guarantee that the child will come out of the womb, right? On day one, it has come in. Next 9 months, it's going to stay inside. Till the day the child comes out, there is no guarantee. We have so many cases we hear, right? Maybe in 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, something happens, the child passes away. What will the doctor say? There are some complications. Maybe he'll give you some reason. Heart stops pumping, this happens, that happens. That might be true. But then one question is why you take all these sonographies, this, that every month, right? You could not make out why today you're saying something like this. We go and ask, right? That we cannot even question at that time. Thing is, that thing is not there even in the doctor's hands. To some extent, if the doctor finds something up and down, he might tell us. Beyond that, there are so many cases, at least till date, which even medical science does not prove, wherein things that happen inside the womb are something which is beyond our understanding how development takes place. Though there is a science in itself, we have to always consider it to be the miracle of nature. Of course, there is science and medical science that is there, but still there are many questions that are unanswered. So it's not just to put that only Garbha Upanishad is great and medical science is not. I'm not trying to tell you that, but it is something which very deeply we have to think inside the structure of a human, inside a human being, how some another human structure develops. Is something which is very we have to think deeply on this and not just consider it randomly as some action that is taking place, and it is something which is very common. It is very common, but not everyone is blessed with, you can say, a very healthy childhood. We ourselves, if you see today now, year after year, maybe 20 years back, 10 years back, something. If I give my example, maybe 22 years back, I was a small child. Today, now, I have some structure that is there, a physical structure. How that growth has taken place, how inside 9 months, how a person grew. Though I don't remember, still the process has taken place very systematically. So, here, Pipalada says, Swatma Bodhakam, for your own understanding, for make yourself aware, you should read this text. Sharira Pandhavat Siddham, to know about your own body, Samatram Kalaye Harim. After some time, it will go away, but then that is one day a person will die. But how this birth takes place, you have to know about that. Now, this for your reference, this Paul Deussen, he has basically translated about more than 60 Upanishads that are there from Sanskrit language, because he had studied Sanskrit into German language. Out of that, he has also translated Garbha Upanishad. So, if anyone needs the English translation of Garbha Upanishad, you can refer to his text. We have very few people who have done this, and our own scholars. It's not that we have to refer to some foreign scholars, but if you don't have the book, then there is no other option. These people have done that. One of them is this. And this Paul Deussen, if you see, he was also a good friend of Swami Vivekananda. So through his help also many translations have done. And I think the book will surely be available. All of you can also check. In case someone wants to read the original Garbha Upanishad in English, you can refer to him. Now let's start. Now what exactly is the topic of Garbha Upanishad? Let's have a look. Now, Garbha Upanishad mainly talks about these five aspects. One is the scheme of human anatomy. That is, what exactly is human anatomy? How does life be born inside? How does life grow inside? All this in detail is covered. Next is, now once the man's sperm and a woman's ovum are together, that is, once a woman is pregnant, next what happens is, only becoming pregnant is not one thing, the child has to develop inside. So the fetus, it develops. How the development takes place in the next 9 months, that is described. Then only development is not enough. The gender, how the gender is determined. Now, with regards to gender that is there, Garbha Upanishad speaks against science. So that is, when that happens in detail, when that topic comes, I'll tell you more in detail, we'll discuss. But then, little the gender, you can say, detection that is there is a bit different, or you can say contradictory. So that now, how far it is true, how far it is false, let's not get into that debate. But from medical science and what we know today, the XY XX chromosome, little it is different here in Garbha Upanishad. Maybe in what perspective the Rishi has written that, we don't know. Then that is little differing. That is only one part of Garbha Upanishad which today's medical science does not accept, or rather it will become difficult for all of us also to accept. It does not include this XY XX chromosome. Next is how twins are born. That concept is described. Then, now the child is born, only a physical piece of flesh is not there. The later 8 to 9 months, there is some, when a human child is born, you have some feelings also. Child is born with feelings, right? That's the reason it cries. That's the reason it laughs. That's the reason it opens its mouth. That's the reason it blinks its eyes. So it reacts. You show it something, immediately it laughs, right? See something bright, or so it will close its eyes. It will become very happy. So it has got some feelings that are there. So some psychological and spiritual state. What exactly thoughts are there in the minds of the fetus, that is described. Then how the newborn child's body is there. What is the structure? That also has been described in detail. So these are the main 5 chapters that are there. Now in detail we are going to see at all this. Maybe today you can just look at the shloka. Panchadmakam panchasu vartamanam shadashrayam shadguna yoga yuktam tatsaptadhatu trimalam dvayoni chaturvidahara mayam shariram bhavati. 5 atmakas, 5 elements, the Panchamahabhutas. How is the body formed? Which exists in 5 states. We will look at all this in detail. It is associated with 6 gunas. It has 7 further components. It has 3 malas. It has 2 yonis. It is formed of 4 kinds of food. This is the detailed description that is given. How is one's body formed? Further, what happens to it? Exactly what are these 5 elements, states, gunas, components, and everything? Today we don't have time. So we will stop here. You can just go through till here. Next time we will complete this topic of Garbha Upanishad.